Somewhere along Florida's Gulf Coast, 3 million people live unaware they sit inside one of the Western Hemisphere's most dangerous storm surge traps. The water is calm, the sky is blue, the bay beautiful, and that is the danger. Tampa Bay's quiet catastrophe waits, inevitable, unstoppable, and unseen. Picture the Florida Peninsula from above. The Gulf of Mexico stretches wide and warm to the west, a vast, shallow basin of water heated year after year by a relentless subtropical sun. Now look closer. Near the center of that western coastline, you will see something unusual, an indentation, a notch carved into the land, a bay that pushes inland like a cupped hand. That is Tampa Bay. It is the largest open water estuary in the entire state of Florida, roughly 400 square miles of water cradled between two peninsulas. It is gorgeous. Sailboats drift across it on weekend mornings. Pelicans glide just above its surface. Downtown Tampa shimmers along its eastern shore, its skyline reflected in the water like a postcard. But geography is not always kind, and Tampa Bay's geography, examined carefully, tells a different story entirely. The bay is shaped like a funnel. Open at the southwest, it narrows as it pushes northeast toward the city. The water at its mouth flows inland and concentrates, tightening into the Tampa shoreline, into the St. Petersburg Peninsula, into the low, flat communities that ring its edges. When a hurricane drives water ahead of it from the Gulf, which is exactly what hurricanes do, that funnel shape acts as an amplifier. The water has nowhere to go but up. And up is a problem, because Tampa Bay is shallow. Extraordinarily shallow by any meaningful comparison. Its average depth is less than 12 feet. Some sections are as shallow as 6. This matters enormously in a storm. Deep water absorbs and disperses energy. Shallow water cannot. Instead, it piles, it stacks, it surges. A hurricane arriving from the southwest, the precise direction most dangerous for Tampa Bay, can push a wall of water directly into that funnel with nothing to slow it down, nothing to absorb it, nowhere to go. Scientists call it a perfect storm trap. Meteorologists have known for decades that Tampa Bay is arguably the most vulnerable major metropolitan area in the United States when it comes to storm surge. Not New Orleans, not Miami. Tampa, 22 feet. Say that number slowly. 22 feet of water. That is not a wave. That is not flooding in the traditional sense. That is a wall of ocean arriving at highway speed, pushing across everything in its path. 22 feet is the roof of a single-story home. It is the second floor of most office buildings. It is deep enough to submerge a school bus standing upright. In the worst-case modeling scenarios, a major hurricane striking at the right angle, at the right tide, in the right conditions, could drive a storm surge of 22 feet into parts of Tampa Bay's coastline. The National Hurricane Center has modeled this scenario repeatedly. The results are not abstract. They are specific. They are terrifying. Entire neighborhoods disappear beneath the water. Roads that serve as evacuation routes flood within the first hours, cutting off escape. Bridges, the only ways off of peninsulas, become impassable. Hospitals in low-lying areas flood to the point of non-function. Hundreds of thousands of people who did not leave find themselves stranded in homes that are filling with water, on rooftops, in attics, waiting. But here is the thing that keeps emergency planners awake at night. 22 feet is not the everyday forecast. It is the outer edge of possibility. A Category 4 or 5 hurricane making a direct, worst-case approach. Even a less catastrophic storm surge, something in the range of 8 to 12 feet, would be historically devastating for Tampa Bay, and the region has never experienced a direct major hurricane strike in living memory. That is not reassurance. That is warning. Tampa has not taken a direct hit from a major hurricane since 1921. Think about what that means. A century has passed. An entire century of growth, development, memory, and complacency has accumulated on the shores of one of the most dangerous storm surge zones in North America. In 1921, Tampa was a small city of roughly 50,000 people. A hurricane struck with little warning. Storm surge of 10 to 11 feet inundated the downtown waterfront. It was devastating, but the city was small, and most of the land that would later be developed had not yet been touched. Today, the greater Tampa Bay metropolitan area is home to approximately 3 million people. 3 million. And an extraordinary proportion of them live in what flood modelers classify as Zone A, the areas that would be impacted first and most severely in a major storm surge event. By some estimates, roughly 700,000 people live in the highest risk evacuation zones around the Bay. Many of them do not know it. Many more know it and have convinced themselves over years of quiet seasons and near misses that it will not happen to them. This is called hurricane amnesia, and Tampa Bay suffers from a case that is nearly 100 years old. The real estate along the water is valuable. The views are extraordinary. The lifestyle is enviable. Waterfront homes in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and the surrounding communities carry price tags that make them symbols of arrival, of success, of the Florida dream. Developers have built right up to the edge of the bay, right down to the waterline for decades. And in that time, the population has grown so dense, so deep, so interwoven with the low-lying geography, that the idea of moving everyone to safety in time seems almost incomprehensible. Her name is Margaret. She is 73 years old, and she has lived in her home in Pinellas County for 31 years. It is a modest concrete block house, one story, with a small garden in the back and photographs of her grandchildren on the refrigerator. She is in Evacuation Zone A. She knows this because the county sent her a letter. She has the letter somewhere. She is not sure she could evacuate alone. Her car needs work. She does not know where she would go. Margaret is not a statistic. She is a representative of one of the single greatest vulnerabilities in any Tampa Bay evacuation scenario. The elderly, the isolated, the medically dependent, the economically constrained. Pinellas County, which forms the Western Peninsula between Tampa Bay and the Gulf of Mexico, is one of the oldest counties in Florida by median age. It is also almost entirely surrounded by water, and it has exactly two primary exit routes: Interstate 275 northward and US Highway 19, which runs north through a corridor of congestion that, even on an ordinary day, is a study in gridlock. Put 1 million people trying to leave Pinellas County through those two corridors ahead of a major hurricane, and you have what traffic modelers call contraflow catastrophe. Studies have shown that a full evacuation of the county's at-risk population could take anywhere from 24 to over 40 hours under ideal conditions. Hurricanes do not wait. A few miles north, in a mobile home park just outside of Clearwater, a man named Darnell sits on his porch on a Tuesday evening. He has lived here for 11 years. The rent is affordable, which matters, because affordable housing near the coast is increasingly rare. His mobile home is tied down. He has a plan, sort of. He thinks he will drive to his cousin's place in Orlando if things get bad. He has not looked up which evacuation zone he is in. Mobile homes are extraordinarily vulnerable to hurricane conditions. They are among the first structures ordered to evacuate in any emergency. And yet, thousands of mobile home residents remain in place during storms, either because they cannot leave, because they believe their home is safer than it is, or because the social and financial machinery of evacuation has simply not reached them. Here is where the story becomes not just present tense, but future tense. Here is where it accelerates. The Gulf of Mexico is warming. The scientific data on this is not contested. Over the last several decades, Gulf water temperatures have risen significantly, and the consequences for hurricane behavior are profound. Warmer water is fuel. Hurricanes that pass over warm Gulf waters can intensify rapidly, explosively in some cases, going from a Category 1 to a Category 4 within 24 hours or less. The phenomenon is called rapid intensification, and it is becoming more common. The implications for Tampa Bay are stark. A storm that looks manageable on Monday morning can become catastrophic by Monday night. The window for evacuation, already narrow, compresses further. People who thought they had time to watch and wait to make the decision tomorrow may wake up to find tomorrow is already gone, and then there is sea level rise. The baseline water level in Tampa Bay has been rising for decades. Studies indicate that sea level around Tampa Bay has risen approximately 8 inches over the last century, and projections suggest an additional 1 to 2 feet of rise by the middle of the century, with higher scenarios possible depending on the trajectory of global ice melt. That baseline matters enormously in a storm surge event. Every additional inch of sea level that exists before the storm arrives is another inch added to the surge. An 8-foot storm surge in 1950 becomes a 9-foot surge with 8 inches of sea level rise. A 15-foot surge gains the same addition. The math compounds relentlessly. The bay itself is also changing in subtle but consequential ways. Development has altered drainage patterns. Wetlands and mangroves, natural storm buffers that absorb surge energy and slow water advance, have been drained, filled, and built over for decades. The natural sponge that once existed along the bay's edges has been systematically removed in the name of development, replaced by seawalls, parking lots, and condominium foundations that do nothing to slow an incoming wall of water. Stand on the Howard Franklin Bridge on any given morning. Traffic moves in both directions across Tampa Bay. Thousands of vehicles commuting between Tampa and St. Petersburg, the two urban centers that anchor the region. Now imagine that bridge during a mandatory evacuation order. Imagine contraflow operations engaged, all lanes running in one direction, the traffic backed up for miles in both directions, the bridge itself vibrating under the weight of 1 million escape decisions being made simultaneously. Tampa Bay's bridges are its lifelines, and in a major storm, they become choke points. Storm surge closes roads at remarkably low water levels. Just 2 feet of moving water can sweep away a vehicle. As surge levels rise, bridges become inaccessible, then impassable, then submerged. There is a point in every major storm scenario where the bridges close. After that point, evacuation by car is over. Anyone still on the peninsulas is staying. The region's hospitals present a separate and sobering dimension of the problem. Several major medical facilities in the Tampa Bay area sit in low-lying zones. The question of what happens to patients on ventilators in intensive care in the middle of surgical procedures when storm surge water begins rising through the first floor of a hospital is not a hypothetical. It is a logistical nightmare that hospital administrators, emergency managers, and nursing staff have worked through in tabletop exercises and found deeply troubling every time. The wastewater infrastructure is similarly at risk. Tampa Bay sits atop a network of sewage treatment facilities, pump stations, and underground pipes that function under normal conditions. In a major surge event, that infrastructure is overwhelmed. Contaminated water mixes with storm surge. The public health consequences of a major hurricane hit persist for months, sometimes years, after the storm itself has passed. It is the invisible second disaster that follows every first one. In 2022, Hurricane Ian struck the Florida coast. It was a Category 4 storm of extraordinary destructive power. It made landfall in Lee County, about 150 miles south of Tampa Bay. The surge at Fort Myers Beach reached heights of over 15 feet. Entire neighborhoods were wiped from the map. Nearly 150 people died. And for days before landfall, Ian had been forecast to strike Tampa Bay directly. People in Tampa evacuated, shelters filled, contraflow operations were engaged on interstates. The region mobilized in a way it had not mobilized in decades. And then, Ian wobbled south at the last moment, and Tampa Bay exhaled. But the near miss left something behind. Emergency managers were sobered by the realization that the evacuation, while significant, had not been complete. Hundreds of thousands of people in high-risk zones had stayed, some out of stubbornness, some out of circumstances, some because they genuinely did not believe it would be that bad. Had Ian tracked north by even 50 miles, the outcome would have been among the deadliest natural disasters in American history. Ian was a rehearsal for a play no one wants to see performed. There is a version of the future where Tampa Bay confronts this risk head-on, where the region invests in hardened infrastructure, aggressive public education, mobile home community relocation programs, expanded shelter capacity, and transportation networks built with evacuation in mind. Where developers are required to account for storm surge risk in meaningful ways. Where the long-term reality of a warming Gulf and rising seas is woven into every planning decision, every building permit, every community conversation about what this place is and what it wants to become. That version exists. Emergency managers are working toward it. Engineers are designing for it. Scientists are publishing the data that makes the case for it. Tampa Bay has invested in improvements to its emergency alert systems, evacuation modeling, and shelter infrastructure. Progress is real. But progress moves at the speed of governance and funding and public will. And hurricanes do not wait for the next budget cycle. There is something about water that human beings consistently underestimate. We see it and we think serenity. We see it and we think recreation. We build toward it. We pay premiums to live beside it. We orient our lives around the view of it. Tampa Bay is genuinely breathtakingly beautiful. That is not in dispute. But water has no memory of what we have built on its edges. It has no awareness of the 3 million lives arranged around its shores. It does not know about the mortgage on Margaret's house, or Darnell's mobile home, or the newborn in the neonatal unit of the hospital that sits 4 feet above mean sea level. It does not care about the bridges, or the highways, or the contraflow plans, or the years of planning documents and emergency management protocols. When a hurricane arrives from the southwest, at the right angle, in the right conditions, the Gulf of Mexico will simply begin to move. It will push. It will enter the mouth of the bay. It will encounter the funnel shape that has been waiting there for millennia, and it will rise. It will rise over seawalls and docks and beach access paths. It will rise over first floors and second floors. It will rise over intersections and parking garages and hospital lobbies. It will continue rising until the storm passes and the physics are satisfied. And then, eventually, it will recede. And what remains will tell us everything we needed to know about what we built, where we built it, who we left behind, and whether we ever truly understood the nature of the place we called home. Tampa Bay is not waiting to become a disaster zone. It already is one. Quiet, patient, beautiful. The water is calm today, but the Gulf remembers. And one day, not if, but when, it will come to collect.